In the headlines, NATO says no longer range missiles for Ukraine. Yet, NATO Chief Mark Rutte insists plans to send Tomahawk-style missiles to Kyiv are not on the table as Trump prepares to meet President Zelensky. Chilean candidate blasts U.S. strikes in Caribbean. Jeannette Jara calls recent attacks on suspected drug trafficking boats a violation of international law, urging criminals be tried and imprisoned, not bombed. Trump confirmed CIA ops in Venezuela. The U.S. president says he authorized the CIA to target prison draining and drug trafficking, but are their assassination order against Venezuela's Maduro? Trump blessed the question as ridiculous. UK-China spy case collapse. Prime Minister Keir Starmer and opposition leader Badenoch clash in parliament over the collapse of a high-profile Chinese espionage case. Nigeria celebrates historic victory against Meta. The tech giant agrees to pay millions of dollars for violating data privacy laws. This includes collecting and sharing user data without permission. Still the most corrupt. The United States once again names the Philippines Bureau of Customs as the country's most corrupt agency. But Malacanang is pushing back, saying reforms are underway and results are starting to show. Vice President Sara Duterte will not turn to PBBM for father's ICC case. The Vice President says she will not seek President Marcos Jr.'s help over former President Rodrigo Duterte's alleged government kidnapping, insisting the action cannot be undone. In the sports world, Yoshinobu Yamamoto delivers a masterclass. I'm Franco Baranda. Newsline World starts now. At a NATO meeting in Brussels, the alliance's chief says there are no plans for now to send longer-range missiles to Ukraine. This comes amid Kyiv's plea to acquire U.S.-made Tomahawks capable of reaching Russian mainland, including Moscow. Prince Tripoli reports.
So, good morning, good to see you all.
Speaking to reporters at NATO headquarters, Secretary General Mark Rutte was asked directly whether it was time for Ukraine to receive long-range offensive weapons.
Well, this is not an issue to be discussed today because that is a bilateral question. So what nations, yes or no, want to supply to Ukraine. But that's not on the table today.
Rutte's statement came ahead of a meeting of NATO defense ministers as allies continue to debate how far to go in arming Ukraine nearly 4 years into the war. On Friday, President Trump is set to meet Ukraine's leader Volodymyr Zelensky in Washington. Trump said earlier this week that Zelensky wants Tomahawk cruise missiles and that supplying them could mark a new step of aggression.
Say he wants weapons, he would like to have Tomahawks. Everyone else wants Tomahawks. We have a lot of Tomahawks.
Trump added that he'd need to speak with Russia first before making any decision. Russian President Vladimir Putin, meanwhile, has repeatedly warned that such a move would escalate the conflict and damage recent efforts to rebuild U.S.-Russia relations. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Prince Tripoli, your citizen correspondent.
In Moscow, the Russian Foreign Ministry is accusing Western nations of lacking the political will for peace after reports that Washington may send Tomahawk cruise missiles to Ukraine. Spokesperson Maria Zakharova made the remarks during a press briefing just days before U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky are set to meet in Washington. Zakharova said Ukraine is preparing what she called new terrorist acts against Russia and linked those claims to talk of possible U.S. missiles deliveries.
Скрывает подготовку и новых терактов против нашей страны с целью эскалации конфликта. Об этом 8 октября в своем видеообращении, сказал Зеленский, добавив, что утвердил планы неких спецопераций СБУ против России. Очевидно, они были сверстаны с учетом возможного появления в ВСУ американских ракет дальнего действия «Tomahawk». Эти гипотетические возможности обсуждались, как стало известно, 11 и 12 октября по телефону президентом США и Зеленским, о чем сообщили их пресс-службы.
Zakharova also took aim at European leaders, including EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas, who recently said that Europe welcomes all tools that make Ukraine stronger and Russia weaker. The Russian diplomat called the statement proof that Western governments are not serious about peace efforts, accusing them of deliberately prolonging the war to preserve what she described as their global order. Hungary made it clear that will not bow down to pressure from its European allies. The country will also continue buying oil and gas from Russia, as energy supply is a matter of national sovereignty, not politics. Speaking at the Russian Energy Week International Forum, Hungarian Foreign Minister Pete Sejirato said his country would never let anyone put pressure on its energy decisions and that Hungary's infrastructure cannot function without Russian gas. Sejirato added that Moscow has proven to be a reliable supplier and that deliveries have always arrived on time and according to contract.
If we are being forced to change this structure of energy supplies of the country, energy prices would skyrocket in Hungary. And we don't want to put our families in Hungary into a situation that the energy prices increase. So we stick to our sovereign right to ensure the safe supply of Hungary and to ensure that the Hungarian families enjoy the lowest gas prices in Europe. And we'll stick to this position of ours regardless of any kind of pressure you can imagine, because you know us.
Meanwhile, Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak revealed that Europe's share of Russian gas has dropped from 44% to just 19% since the start of war in Ukraine, calling Russia's pivot toward Asia part of a long-term national strategy. Hungary remains one of the few EU countries maintaining close energy ties with Moscow since the conflict broke out in February 2022. Aside from Hungary, other top EU member countries that are still buying Russian energy includes Slovakia, France, the Netherlands, and Belgium. The Department of Public Works and Highways is recovering millions of pesos worth of insurance from projects found to be fake or poorly constructed. The agency took this step after signing an agreement with the Insurance Commission to strengthen oversight of project insurances of surety bonds, especially following the exposure of anomalous flood control projects. Jeannette Jara reports.
Hindi lang enough yung managot yung mga dapat managot. Kailangan po maibalik ang pera ng ating mga kababayan.
This was emphasized by Public Works and Highways Secretary Vince Dizon amid the ongoing investigation into the anomalous flood control projects. Dizon said they will go after the insurance companies involved in projects discovered to be ghost or substandard. This particularly includes the controversial projects in Bulacan, Mindoro, and Davao Oriental, which the agency had already filed cases against earlier. In fact, the DPWH and the Insurance Commission signed an agreement to ensure transparency and integrity in the insurance or surety bonds of government projects. The secretary added that the government must recover up to 30% of the total cost of each project through insurance claims found to be tainted with corruption.
Bawat kontrata, merong performance band yan. Pwedeng mag-claim ang gobyerno dun sa band na yon. Pwede niyang bawiin yon. Sabihin mo na, mga kontrata natin na ngayon na pinapaygan natin, marami dyan, mga around 100 million per contract. So up to 30 million pesos bawat kontrata ang pwedeng i-claim ng gobyerno.
The secretary has also written to 3 insurance companies to recover claims from the anomalous projects. Among those who received letters from Secretary Dizon are Liberty Insurance Corporation, Travelers Company, and Sterling Insurance Company, which have yet to respond. Meanwhile, on the part of the Insurance Commission, their goal is to expedite the process of recovering the project claims or insurance. If the insurance companies fail to respond, they may face sanctions.
Tignan namin mabuti kung ano ba yung kakulangan at bakit hindi sila magbabayad. At kung nakita natin na merong negligence, pwede namin silang bigyan ng penalties, fine, like suspension or revocation of licenses.
The Insurance Commission will also conduct an investigation to determine whether there was collusion between the insurance companies and the contractors. It will also look into the possibility of ghost insurance companies issuing surety bonds for anomalous projects. Among these are projects linked to controversial contractors, Sara and Curly Discaya, Mark Arevalo of Wawal Builders, Sally Santos of Sims Trading Construction, IM Construction, and several others.
Let this collaboration serve as a signal that we are all serious about reforms, that we value cooperation, and that we will not allow negligence or dishonesty.
Based on initial data from the DPWH, the agency is pursuing nearly 90 million pesos worth of insurance claims from the 3 aforementioned insurance companies in connection with projects proven to be tainted with corruption. For God and for my beloved Philippines, this has been Sheena Torno, SMNI News.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines has denied reports about alleged ghost projects amounting to 15 billion pesos, saying these claims are nothing but malicious accusations. Paul Montibon reports.
Press briefing, AFP spokesperson Colonel Francois Margaret Padilla firmly denied the allegations of ghost projects amounting to 15 billion pesos from 2023 to 2025. According to the official, the report is irresponsible and only aims to discredit the leadership of their organization. Padilla clarified that the AFP has no jurisdiction over the implementation of projects or the handling of funds. She said their only responsibility is to receive the facilities that are built for them. The AFP admitted that they have many priority facilities such as barracks, training centers, and other buildings, but emphasized that only the DPWH has control over these funds. Because of what they described as defamation, the AFP will file criminal charges against the individuals who spread the malicious information. The AFP also warned groups and individuals that they will not allow anyone to tarnish the credibility of their organization as a professional institution of the country. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Paul Montibon, SMNI News.
Up next, Chilean candidate blasts U.S. strikes in Caribbean. Jeannette Jara calls recent attacks on suspected drug trafficking boats a violation of international law, urging criminals be tried and imprisoned, not bombed. UK-China spy case collapse. Prime Minister Keir Starmer and opposition leader Badenoch clashed in parliament over the collapse of a high-profile Chinese espionage case. And still the most corrupt. The United States once again names the Philippines Bureau of Customs as the country's most corrupt agency, but Malacanang is pushing back, saying reforms are underway and results are starting to show. More news when Newsline World returns.
How to receive God's favor. So, for us, in order to receive the favor of God, we must avoid a holier than thou attitude. Importante sa harap ng ating Panginoon na tayo ay may kababaan ng loob na wag nating tingnan at mapagmataas tayo sa ating mga sarili. Isaiah chapter 57, verse 15. For thus saith the high and lofty one that inhabiteth eternity, whose name is holy. I dwell in the high and holy place with him also that is of a contrite and humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble and to revive the heart of the contrite ones. Bilang mga anak ng Diyos na tunay, upang tayo ay kasihan ng kanyang pabor, kailangan tayo ay hindi lamang mapagpakumbaba, kundi tayo ay mapagpatawad. If you want to seek the favor of God, be forgiving in your heart, so that when you pray and lift up holy hands to heaven, the Lord of heaven will also forgive your trespasses. May pabor ka na sa Diyos pagka ikaw ay dumadalangin na pinatawad mo ang kasalanan ng iba. In order to receive the favor of God, we must be humble. We must be forgiving. And we should not judge. And then, if you want to have favor with God, you must love God and obey God's words at all times. Ang aklat na ito ng kautusan ay huwag mahihiwalay sa iyong bibig, kundi iyong pagbubulayan araw at gabi upang iyong masunod na gawin ang ayon sa lahat ng nakasulat dito, sapagkat kung magkagayoy iyong pagiginhawain ang iyong lakad, at kung magkagayoy magtatamo ka ng mabuting kawakasan. Magkakaroon ka ng pabor sa harap ng ating Panginoon. Mahalin ang kanyang mga banal na salita, ipamuhay ang kanyang banal na salita, sundin ang kanyang banal na salita. Huwag hihiwalay ang kanyang banal na salita sa ating bibig araw at gabi. Pagbubulayan natin yan araw at gabi. Bago kayo magtrabaho sa umaga, pagkagising ninyo, kumuha muna kayo ng mga salita ng Diyos. Magbasa kayo, mag-devotional kayo. Basahin ang salita ng Diyos. Mahalin ang salita ng Diyos. Huwag ilagay ang Biblia at patungan ng anumang klaseng libro. Kailangan yan ay nasa ibabaw ng lahat ng libro.
Hoy, magnanakaw! Tingin! Pulis to! Hala, magnanakaw!
Magnanakaw! Magnanakaw!
Uy, magnanakaw!
Magnanakaw! Magnanakaw!
Ano kayang gagawin ko? Ipamimigay ko yung konti para tumigil sila sa pag-iingay.
Pare, magnanakaw, namimigay ng pera.
Eto ang sayo.
Wow! Ang bait ng magnanakaw!
Eto naman sayo.
Kuya, yung
eto
share ko! Sana
Huwag ka nang maingay. Eto pa. Tama na yan. Nakikipalato lang kayo eh. Huwag nang maingay. Diba? Konti lang pinamigay ko, mabait na ako. Tahimik na sila. Easy. Ngayon, pwede ko na tong suluhin.
Masaya ang mga tao, pero tama po ba ito? Di po ba ang nakikinabang sa magnanakaw ay kasabwat ng magnanakaw?
Ikaw, kinukonsenti mo ba ang legal na korupsyon?
Israel has received the remains of several hostages who were held by Hamas. This is part of the first phase of the Gaza peace deal that also saw hundreds of Palestinian prisoners released. Paul Montibon tells us more.
The remains of 4 Israeli hostages were brought to a forensic institute in Tel Aviv recently for identification. Crowds gathered outside, some waving Israeli flags, as the vehicles carrying the remains arrived under heavy police escort. Under the first phase of that agreement, 20 living hostages were freed Monday in exchange for roughly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. The deal also includes a temporary ceasefire, humanitarian aid deliveries into Gaza, and a partial withdrawal of Israeli forces. Officials say later stages of agreement are still under discussion, covering issues such as Gaza's post-war governance, reconstruction, and the future of Hamas itself. Israeli officials say identification efforts are now underway and that more returns could follow in the coming days. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Paul Montibon, SMNI News.
Chilean presidential candidate Jeannette Jara condemned recent U.S. attacks on suspected drug trafficking boats in the Caribbean, calling them a violation of due process and international law. This report from Jane Cagnita.
Chilean presidential candidate Jeannette Jara has slammed the United States for its recent military strikes in the Caribbean aimed at alleged drug traffickers. Speaking at a press conference in Santiago, Jara said the use of force undermines justice and sets a dangerous precedent. The comment comes amid international criticism over the U.S. operations, which have been questioned for possible breaches of sovereignty and human rights.
Cuando se bombardean lanchas desde arriba, o desde el cielo más bien dicho, diciendo que son narcotraficantes, bien podrían haber arrestado a esas personas y haberlas juzgado en un debido proceso, y así todos tendríamos garantía de que efectivamente eran quienes eran. A mi entender, a los delincuentes hay que juzgarlos y encarcelarlos y no bombardearlos.
The former labor minister also reaffirmed her party's commitment to peaceful diplomacy, saying Chile should strengthen multilateral ties rather than support any form of military escalation. Moreover, Jara is also seeking to promote renewable energy investment and stronger state oversight of the economy.
O sea, me gusta soñar en grande y construir en grande. Y para eso hay que multiplicar la inversión en Chile. Estamos con tasas bajas de inversión hace mucho tiempo y creo que Chile tiene una gran oportunidad económica en materia del desarrollo de las energías renovables, dado la transición energética mundial.
Her stance reflects a broader platform centered on peace, human rights, and socio-economic development, as she seeks to present a moderate image ahead of next year's election. As the campaign season gains momentum, Jara's strong words against military force and her focus on investment and humanity set her apart in Chile's growingly polarized political landscape. This has been Jane Cagnita, your global citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
A political storm has hit London. United Kingdom Prime Minister Keir Starmer and opposition leader Badenoch face off over the collapse of a high-profile Chinese espionage case. The trial of Christopher Cash and Christopher Berry ended abruptly last month. Prosecutors dropped the charges, saying the government couldn't prove a national security threat.
I'm deeply disappointed by the outcome. We wanted to see prosecutions. Mr. Speaker, I know just how seriously, rightly, that you take these matters.
Starmer argued that the alleged offenses happened under the previous conservative government, which he says carefully avoided labeling China a threat. He also promised transparency by releasing witness statements and evidence to the public. Badenoch, however, accused Starmer of deflecting responsibility. He argued it was simply unbelievable that the Labour government had allowed the case to collapse.
It is simply unbelievable. It is simply unbelievable that he is trying to say the last government did not classify China as a threat.
Badenoch went on to note key warnings about China in 2021, 2022, and 2024, pointing to government reports and MI5 statements. Starmer countered, saying the conservatives failed to take a firm stance and promised to release the witness statements and evidence to the public to ensure transparency. The controversy has raised serious questions about UK national security policies and the handling of sensitive espionage cases. Meanwhile, the UK government says the witness statement will soon publish, as well as evidence. Malacanang defended itself against the U.S. State Department report that once again identified the Bureau of Customs as the most corrupt government agency in the Philippines. The palace maintained that the current administration continues to implement reforms to fight corruption. President Cataro files this report.
The U.S. State Department has once again labeled the Bureau of Customs as the most corrupt agency in the country, according to its latest report. In response, Malacanang issued a statement asserting that the administration remains firm in its campaign against corruption. According to Presidential Communications Office Undersecretary Claire Castro, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has given a clear directive to eradicate corruption, as emphasized in his previous State of the Nation address.
Sabi po natin, dito lamang sa SONA talaga pong matindi na po ang gustong gawing paglaban ng Pangulo sa korupsyon. Hindi po yan lingid sa ating kalaman.
Castro pointed out that in July 2025, newly appointed BOC Commissioner Ariel Nepomuceno immediately implemented significant reforms. These measures include strengthening transparency, accountability, and professionalism within the agency. She added that the BOC has also coordinated with the American Chamber of Commerce and the U.S. Embassy with the assistance of the Department of Foreign Affairs to explain its sweeping reform agenda. In addition, policies against conflicts of interest have been enforced, prohibiting employees and their relatives up to the fourth degree from engaging in customs brokerage or operating related businesses.
Matatandaan din po natin na nag-prohibit sila ng conflict of interest among the professionals na hindi pwedeng sumama sa negosyo o magkaroon ng financial interest sa mga customs brokerage at ito ay within the fourth civil degree, by affinity and by consanguinity.
On the matter of modernization, the official reported that the BOC's digitalization rate has reached 96.99%. Among its new systems are the overstaying cargo tracking system, the enhanced e-travel system, and the ATA carnet monitoring. The BOC is also actively collaborating with the World Customs Organization.
So ito pong lahat ay para tugunan ang direktiba ng Pangulo na patayin hanggat maaari o maiwasan ang korupsyon sa ating bansa. So with this report, tingin natin at maaasahan natin ang magiging positibo naman sigurong tugon ng US State Department.
Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Kerceline Catarong, SMNI News.
For former National Security Advisor, retired General Hermogenes Esperon, rampant corruption in the country could affect national security following the controversy over the flood control projects. Esperon also believes that President Bongbong Marcos Jr. is not exempt from the issue due to the principle of command responsibility. At the same time, experts are urging the government to adopt blockchain technology to strengthen transparency and prevent corruption in government projects. Margaret Gonzalez reports.
There is now technology that can help the government ensure transparency in projects and prevent corruption. According to Jonathan Bocaling, CEO of Integra Nexus Incorporated, blockchain technology is an effective tool because it provides a centralized database that is permanent, automatic, and verifiable through artificial intelligence. Experts are urging the government to integrate this kind of system into its transaction to prevent anomalous projects.
The principle of blockchain is that every time nagkaroon tayo ng transaction, may binigay ka sa akin, sa buong barangay, naka-record yung transaction na yun. Kaya ang blockchain, tinatawag, decentralized, ibig sabihin hindi isang central authority, decentralized ledger.
Okay.
So ledger system siya, right? So yung utang ko, ngayon, pag nasa buong barangay, lahat naka-record, hindi tayo pwede mag-aaway kasi alam natin alam ng lahat.
Blockchain is the recording, the books. AI is the thinking party. Okay. Siya ngayon yung nag-analyze whether there is a fraud, there is a duplication of the papers, that the papers are complete, and the funds are provided.
This technology is supported by former National Security Advisor Hermogenes Esperon as a possible solution by the Marcos administration to address corruption in government. However, when it comes to accountability, Esperon believes that the president is still not absolved, even though he was the one who exposed the alleged irregularities in the flood control projects. According to Esperon, as President Marcos Jr. bears command responsibility for what happened in the country.
May command responsibility magmula sa, halimbawa sa armed forces, yung division commander may command responsibility. Ngunit yung chief of staff mayroon din command responsibility doon sa kanyang mga division at saka area commands. Ganon din ang ating Pangulo. Ang sinasabi ko lang, kung mayroong nangyaring ganyan, kailangan mayroon ding aksyon na gagawin para malutas o malunasan yung mga problemang nangyari. Ang tanong, sapat na ba yung mga ginagawa ng ating Pangulo para malutas o malunasan yung problema lalo na dito sa bilyong-bilyong korupsyon?
Esperon added that large-scale corruption is not only a political issue but also a threat to national security.
I define national security as the state or condition where the well-being and welfare of the Filipino people, the territorial integrity, the sovereignty, the government institutions, and the culture of the Filipino people are all protected and enhanced. Ngayon, kung ang pakiramdam ng mga kababayan natin ay malungkot sila o kaya galit dahil sa bilyong-bilyong korupsyon, at yung economy natin ay bumababa, na yung iba nag-iisip na malungkot ang Christmas, eh di mukhang hindi maganda sa moral and welfare ng ating mga kababayan.
The former general also could not hide his disappointment, saying that the funds that could have been allocated for AFP modernization or infrastructure were wasted on these projects.
Di ibig sabihin, mahina ang infrastructure mo for development. At wala ka ring pera masyado para sa defensa mo dahil nga napunta sa ibang bagay. Na halimbawa, yung ating AFP modernization, sa halip na napunduhan sana na malaki-laki, ay ginusto pa na mailagay sa ibang mga projects, pero ganun pala, gagawin namang ghost projects.
Esperon added that he could not blame the people if they are now calling for the president to step down or resign. However, he said what's important is for the president to address corruption and hold those responsible accountable.
Diskarte ng Pangulo yun. Kung anong gagawin niya, magre-resign ba siya o hindi? Kung hindi, dapat may lunas at may kalutasan siyang ibibigay. Kung may nagsasabing resign, karapatan nila magsabi yun. Si Pangulo na mismo nagsabi, pwede kayo magprotesta. Pero hindi niya sinabing, pwede niyong sabihin mag-resign ako. Di ba? Pero masisisi mo ba yung mga tao kung galit at nagugutom? Hindi, di ba?
For God in my beloved Philippines, this has been Marie Gonzalez, SMN News.
Vice President Sara Duterte asserted that the call for Marcos' resignation is meaningless. Instead, she challenged President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to undergo a drug test and address the issues surrounding his alleged signing of a questionable budget. Carlo de la Peña has more.
Dito sa ating
Vice President Sara Duterte clarified that he never called for President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to step down from his post, saying such a thing will never happen. VP Sara stressed that the call for Marcos' resignation is meaningless.
never ask him to resign. That is a pointless call, Hindi magre-resign yan. Nakita niyo ba yung tatay? Ilang taon yun?
10 years.
Ilang years yung senior?
20.
20 years? Oo. That is a pointless call, Tingnan niyo yung DNA niya na ayaw niyan. So, Marcos resign is a pointless call.
She insisted that Marcos Jr. should instead face the challenge of taking a drug test as proof of integrity in his leadership. Duterte called the president's refusal to take the drug test a betrayal of public trust, saying that as the nation's leader, he has an obligation to demonstrate transparency to the people.
when you are president or vice president, you consecrate yourself to the service of the nation. Ibig sabihin nun, ibibigay mo na yung sarili mo sa bayan. Ibig sabihin nun, yung katawan mo, hindi na yan sa iyo sa bayan na yan. Yung pag-iisip mo, hindi na yan sa iyo sa bayan na yan. Therefore, pag sinabi ng bayan na magpa-drug test ka, hindi ka pwedeng magsabi ng hindi. And therefore, that is betrayal of public trust.
VP Sara also added that Marcos Jr. should answer for his alleged signing of a questionable budget.
Pangalawa, yung pagpirma niya ng kaduda-duda na budget. That is a culpable violation of the Constitution. Yan ang sinasabi ko, nasagutin niya, na hindi niya sinasagot. Ang ginagawa nila, naghanap sila ng mga tao na aatakihin nila para nakakalimutan yung tanong sa kapasidad ng Pangulo na maging leader.
She added that instead of attacking critics, it would be better for the president to prove that he is capable of properly fulfilling his duties as the country's leader.
I am asking him to do his job, of which, of course, alam na nating lahat na hindi niya ginagawa.
For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, this has been Carlo de la Peña, SMNI News.
When we come back, Nigeria celebrates historic victory against Meta. The tech giant agrees to pay millions of dollars for violating data privacy laws. This includes collecting and sharing user data without permission. Vice President Sara Duterte will not turn to PBBM for father's ICC case. The Vice President says she will not seek President Marcos Jr.'s help over former President Rodrigo Duterte's alleged government kidnapping, insisting the actions cannot be undone. And in the sports world, Yoshinobu Yamamoto delivers a masterclass as the Los Angeles Dodgers move closer to the World Series. More news after the break.
Children will grow up and bring the joy, the love, the peace, and compassion to the whole world. We only have one planet. We only have one Earth. And I hope that this new generation of children that we have reached out will become millions and billions and bring peace on Earth. Bring peace to humanity.
Madalas ka bang napapasobra sa pag-scroll sa phone mo kahit puro masasamang balita ang nakikita mo? Isipin mo ito. Nakahiga ka na sa kama, nagche-check lang ng phone bago matulog. Tapos, hindi mo na malayan, ilang oras ka na palang nagbabasa at nanonood ng mga balita tungkol sa digmaan, sakuna, politika at lahat ng masasamang nangyayari sa mundo. Nakakaramdam ka na ng kaba at pagod. Pero tuloy mo pa rin ang scroll mo. Ang tawag dyan ay doom scrolling. Ito ang habit ng paulit-ulit na pagtingin sa mga negatibo o nakakadepress na content tulad ng digmaan, krimen o problema sa mundo. Nakaka-stress pero hindi mo pa rin mapigilan. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral ng Texas Tech University, ang sobrang konsumo ng masasamang balita ay nauugnay sa pagtaas ng stress, anxiety at pisikal na sintomas gaya ng pagkapagod at sakit ng ulo. Ayon naman sa Harvard Health, ang doom scrolling ay nagpapataas ng fight or flight hormones tulad ng cortisol at adrenaline na nakakapagpabigat ng isip at katawan. Nakakaapekto ito sa iyong mood, tulog at maging sa mental at physical health mo. At kapag naman puro memes at random na content ang pinapanood mo ng sunod-sunod hanggang sa mawalan ka na ng gana na mag-isip at gumawa ng iba pang gawain, ang tawag naman dyan ay brain rot. Sa Gen Z at tinatawag na internet culture, ang brain rot ay overconsumption o sobrang tagal na panonood ng paulit-ulit, mababaw, magulo o walang saysay ng content online hanggang sa parang manhid na ang utak mo. Kapag nasobrahan, syempre, nakakasama. Nawawalan ka na ng focus, nawawala ang motivation, hirap mag-isip ng malalim, parang lutang o foggy ang utak. Masaya sa simula, pero kapag sobra, napapagod ang isip mo. Nahihirapang mag-concentrate at parang lutang. Mas delikado pa ito sa mga bata dahil ang utak nila ay nasa proseso pa ng pag-develop. Kaya mas malakas ang epekto ng doom scrolling at brain rot sa kanila. Maaaring makaapekto sa pag-aaral, pag-iisip at pakikitungo sa iba. Ang higit sa 4 na oras ng screen time araw-araw sa mga kabataan ay konektado sa 35 to 88% na mas mataas na posibilidad ng depresyon, anxiety at stress. Base ito sa isang malawakang pag-aaral sa Brazil. Kaya, maging balanse. Magpahinga sa screen, magbasa, makipagkwentuhan, magdasal, maging present lagi. Alagaan ang iyong isipan. Kung anong itinatanim sa isipan mo, yun ang lalago.
In a landmark move for digital rights across Africa, Nigeria has forced social media giant Meta to pay more than $32 million for violating the country's data protection law. Officials say the case marks a turning point in how global tech companies handle user privacy in developing nations. Almar Forsuelo for the details.
For years, ordinary citizens have complained about how social media apps from Facebook to Instagram seem to listen in on their private lives. Nigeria's regulators took note of this and decided to take action. Now, they are celebrating what they call a landmark victory after forcing US tech giant Meta to comply with the country's data protection laws.
Nigeria has gone a step beyond just having a law, but have also put in place appropriate frameworks that can enable effective implementation of the data protection framework. And then we are holding data controllers accountable globally as well. Those that are domiciled outside of the country, they are being held accountable in Nigeria for the way they process the data of data subjects in Nigeria.
The Nigeria Data Protection Commission says Meta broke national privacy laws by collecting and sharing user data without permission and transferring it abroad without authorization. The fine, worth $32.8 million, is the first major enforcement under Nigeria's 2023 Data Protection Act. Officials say the case sends a strong signal that the power of Nigeria's 2023 Data Protection Act, which established the NDPC as an independent watchdog to safeguard citizens' personal data, has the power to go after big tech.
We are holding all of them accountable now. The way most of them were collecting and processing their data 5, 6, 10 years ago, it's not the same way anymore. But you know now there's a law in Nigeria and there's an independent data protection authority. If there is any breach on any unauthorized use of any personal data from Nigeria, they will after them. So all of them are now aware And if you check the way they collect appraisal, it has really changed.
For ordinary Nigerians, the case hit close to home, with users complaining that social media ads often seem to appear right after private conversations. One resident was shocked to see ads for dining sets just minutes after chatting about buying one online, a pattern that has raised questions about digital surveillance and consent.
When I was chatting with a friend, and I think that was via Messenger on Facebook, and I was telling him about getting a new dining set, and after our discussion, I just saw this thing that popped up about dining sets on my timeline, and I was like shocked that I didn't ask for this. I didn't even make any request or inquiry about this, and it came.
They listen to our conversations. They listen to, in fact, even if you are not using their app to search for that particular item, if you use AliExpress or you use Gigi, you find it on Facebook. You find the ad on Facebook. So I think if they are breaching the law, then they should face the consequences.
According to the NDPC, Meta was accused of running behavioral advertising campaigns using Nigerians' data without explicit permission and failing to file required audits under the law. Local reports say Meta initially fought the fine but has since agreed to an out-of-court settlement expected to be finalized later this October. Reporting for Newsline World, Almar Forswalo, SMNI News.
Vice President Sara Duterte refused to seek help from President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. regarding the case of her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte. Vice President Sara insisted that she would no longer approach President Marcos, saying that the government kidnapping he allegedly carried out in the country can no longer be undone. She added that it is the president's duty to make decisions on legal matters and stands firm that such an action should never have been approved. Duterte added that any problem faced by former President Duterte is something their family will deal with privately.
Hindi ko kakasapin si BBM para kay dating Pangulong Duterte dahil ang sa akin is yung ginawa nila na kidnapping ng isang Pilipino sa loob, government kidnapping ng isang Pilipino sa loob ng ating bansa. There's no going back sa ganun, ma'am. Trabaho niya yun at trabaho niya yun in a sense na inaprubahan niya na hindi niya dapat ginawa bilang isang Pangulo. Kung ano man yung problema ni legal problem ni dating Pangulong Duterte ngayon ay problema na yon niya at syempre ng pamilya namin dahil ama namin siya. Pero for me to go to him and request on behalf of former President Duterte, no, there's no going back sa ginawa nila na rendition.
Whatever legal problem former President Duterte is facing now is his problem. And of course, our family's problem because he is our father. But for me to go to him and make a request on behalf of former President Duterte, no, because there is going back from what they did, that condition. The Marcos administration is merely afraid and insecure, according to Vice President Sara Duterte, which is why they are the ones bringing up the issue of destabilization. She added that if there is any group attempting to overthrow the government, it would be the Makabayan Bloc. This report from Carla de la Peña.
Amid the ongoing protest actions, Vice President Sara Duterte emphasized that there is no plan to overthrow the government and that those participating are merely expressing their sentiments and frustrations. According to VP Sara, the word destabilization always comes from the administration, which she claims feels insecure about the growing voice of the Filipino people.
Nai-insecure lang o natatakot lang yung administration sa lakas ng boses ng mga tao. Pero sa totoo lang, ma'am, walang nagpaplano ng destabilisasyon. Normal ang pagpapahayag ng isang tao sa kanyang nararamdaman. Ang pansin ko, yung destabilization, na word, na salita, nanggagaling siya lagi sa administrasyon. Kasi nai-insecure sila at natatakot sila.
VP Sara added that if there is any group attempting to overthrow the government, it would be the Makabayan Bloc.
Yan talaga ang vision ng Makabayan, pabagsakin ang gobyerno kasi gusto nilang mag-take over. So kung meron man grupo na nagmi-meeting para pabagsakin ang administrasyon, ang gobyerno, Makabayan yun. Wala nang iba. Lahat ng iba dyan, wala nang meeting yan. Yan sila nang nararamdaman nila naggalit sa pangyayari.
As for the issue that Cavite Representative Kiko Barzaga is allegedly acting on her behalf, the Vice President denied the accusation and stressed that the lawmaker has his own principles and stand.
Hindi ko pakawala si Kiko Barzaga. Sa tingin niyo ba, sa personality ni Congressman Kiko Barzaga, isa siyang tao na ma-handle ng kahit sino man? Diba? Nakikita niyo naman yung kanyang independence sa pag-iisip eh. Nakikita niyo din yung kanyang lakas ng loob. Nakikita niyo din yung prinsipyo niya.
According to VP Sara, the administration simply cannot accept that there are people who are unafraid and cannot be bought with money, and that every Filipino has the right to express their sentiments under the freedom of speech.
He is his own person, he has his own principles, and he has his own free will. And there is nothing wrong at all with what he is doing because, as I said, tayong lahat, we are covered by the freedom of speech and expression. Unfortunately, meron tayong administrasyon na hindi nila matanggap na meron talagang mga tao na number 1, hindi natatakot at number 2, hindi nabibili ng pera.
For God and my beloved Philippines, Carla Abellana, SMNI News.
The Independent Commission for Infrastructure, ICI, said it has no knowledge of the alleged plan to make later Representative Martin Romualdez a state witness. Meanwhile, the Diskaya couple has decided to stop cooperating with the ICI's investigation into the anomalous flood control projects. Prince Tripoli reports.
The couple, Curly and Sara Duterte, once again went to the office of the Independent Commission for Infrastructure, not as resource persons, but to announce that they would no longer cooperate with the ICI.
The spouses Duterte appeared before the commission, and upon the advice of their counsel, they invoked their right to self-incrimination and manifested that they will no longer cooperate with the investigation being conducted by the ICI. Basically, they explained that they were thinking that when they cooperate before the ICI, they will be getting a favorable recommendation from the Commission as state witness.
Now that the Diskaya couple has withdrawn their cooperation, will this affect the ICI's investigation into the irregularities in the flood control projects?
Hindi naman. Marami naman tayong mapapagkuhanan ng information. In fact, ang dami nang nagte-testify. And pagdudugtong-dugtong natin lahat yan para makuha natin kung ano talaga nangyari at makuha natin kung ma-filean natin or ma-recommend natin na ma-filean itong mga taong to. But definitely, we will get to the bottom of this. We will continue our investigation para malaman natin kung sino talaga yung mga may sala.
Meanwhile, the ICI clarified that it has no knowledge of the supposed plan to make Congressman Martin Romualdez a state witness.
Wala akong alam na ganong plano or ganong plano or intent by the DOJ, because DOJ naman na magde-decide dyan. No? But definitely, I don't know, or the ICI doesn't know about that.
According to the Commission, they are still reviewing the evidence and testimonies before recommending a possible state witness. The ICI further emphasized that under the guidelines of the Witness Protection Program, it must be proven that the applicant is not the most guilty party in the case. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Prince Tripoli, your citizen correspondent.
The Department of Budget and Management has approved the release of 3.39 billion pesos for the distribution of the fiscal year 2023 performance-based bonus or PBB to over 225,545 qualified officers and personnel of the Philippine National Police or PNP. According to Budget Secretary Amina Pangandaman, the release of the PBB for the PNP aims to boost the morale and welfare of government workers, especially those in law enforcement. Under this initiative, each qualified PNP officer and personnel will receive a performance-based bonus equivalent to 45.5% of their monthly basic salary based on their pay as of December 31, 2023. Personnel in the first, second, and third levels must have received at least a very satisfactory rating under the Civil Service Commission Strategic Performance Management System or an equivalent rating approved by the Career Executive Service Board. The funds will be sourced from the Miscellaneous Personal Benefit Fund under the Republic Act Number 12116 or the Fiscal Year 2025 General Appropriations Act. A new flashpoint in Latin America. President Donald Trump has publicly confirmed that he authorized CIA operations on Venezuela soil. The move, already sparking global concern, could further escalate tensions against President Maduro and his government. Hada Jane Sancho reports.
President Donald Trump confirms he gave the go signal for CIA to operate on Venezuelan soil, citing drug trafficking and criminal migration as his main motivations in giving the green light. The New York Times first reported that the authorization would allow U.S. operatives to conduct lethal missions targeting the Maduro regime, which Washington accuses of running narco-terrorist networks and funneling drugs into the U.S. When asked why he authorized the CIA to go into Venezuela, Trump replied,
I authorized for two reasons, really. Number one, they have emptied their prisons into the United States of America. They came in through the, they came in through the border. They came in because we had an open border policy. And as soon as I heard that, I said a lot of these countries, they're not the only country, but they're the worst abuser. And the other thing are drugs. We have a lot of drugs coming in from Venezuela. And a lot of the Venezuelan drugs come in through the sea, so you get to see that. But we're going to stop them by land also.
But when pressed if the CIA was authorized to take out Maduro, Trump refused to answer.
Oh, I don't want to answer a question like that. That's a ridiculous question for me to be given.
Maduro, meanwhile, accuses Washington of plotting regime change and vows that his military is ready to defend Venezuela from what he calls imperialist aggression. During his first term, Trump imposed sweeping sanctions on Venezuela and raised the bounty for Maduro's arrest to $50 million. The U.S. has also deployed naval forces in the Caribbean, destroying at least 5 boats, allegedly smuggling drugs from Venezuela since September. Reporting for Newsline World, this is Hada Jane Sancho, SM9 News.
Peruvian President Jose Harry has sworn in his first cabinet at the government palace in Lima, days after taking office following the dismissal of former President Dina Boluarte for permanent moral incapacity. Here's Mayjoy Valdez for the updates.
President Harry administered the oath to his newly appointed ministers in the Golden Hall in front of members of Congress and the media. The interim leader named 18 ministers, including 4 women. Former Constitutional Court President Ernesto Alvarez Miranda was appointed President of the Council of Ministers, replacing Eduardo Arana. The cabinet's composition reflects a focus on technical expertise and sectoral experience as the administration aims to project stability and competence ahead of the congressional vote of confidence. Under Peru's constitution, the Cabinet has 30 days to present its policy agenda to Congress covering security, economic recovery, and anti-corruption priorities. If Congress rejects a vote of confidence, President Harry must reorganize his cabinet. If approved, his administration will move forward with implementing its programs. The swearing-in marks President Harry's first major step toward consolidating his government amid Peru's continuing political uncertainty. Mayjoy Valdez, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Ecuador is gripped by chaos as a deadly explosion in Guayaquil and violent clashes in Otavalo leave one dead, dozens injured, and tensions at a breaking point. Here's Eve Buenafe for the rest of the story.
One person was killed and several others injured after a vehicle exploded outside the Mall del Sol shopping center in northern Guayaquil on Tuesday night. A lifeless body was covered with a sheet beside the yellow car along one of the city's main avenues. As emergency teams secured the area, authorities say several victims were taken to nearby hospitals for treatment. The explosion also caused material damage to surrounding buildings. Guayas Governor Humberto Plaza condemned the incident, describing it as a terrorist attack and saying the perpetrators aimed to spread fear rather than achieve any political goal. Interior Minister John Rainbirch later revealed that 4 high-powered explosive devices with electronic activation systems were found at the scene. He said the devices were of professional manufacture and linked the attack to criminal groups seeking to cause chaos. Further north, chaos also erupted in the city of Otavalo, where clashes broke out between protesters and soldiers after demonstrators tried to block a military convoy delivering humanitarian aid. Police were seen firing at masked protesters hurling rocks, while burning barricades blocked a main road into the city. Authorities confirmed at least 43 arrests and dozens of injuries. Doctors said hospitals were overwhelmed with patients suffering open wounds, fractures, cranial trauma, and nerve damage. The confrontation came amid a nationwide strike that began nearly 4 weeks ago, after the government scrapped its diesel subsidy, pushing fuel prices from $1.80 to $2.80 per gallon. The protests have crippled trade and tourism, with millions in daily losses. The government of President Daniel Noboa maintains that the reforms are legal and essential to curb fuel smuggling and redirect funds to social programs. From Guayaquil's deadly explosion to Otavalo's violent clashes, Ecuador is now caught in a wave of fear and disorder, a nation on edge as violence and unrest sweep across its streets. Eve Buenafe, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
The Department of Migrant Workers has suspended the manning agency and ship owner of MV Minerva Crat for failing to submit a report to the agency before passing through the Gulf of Aden, an area notorious for Houthi attacks. Angie De Leon has more on this.
Migrant Workers Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak is disappointed over what he described as a poor decision by the manning agency of the vessel carrying 12 Filipino seafarers aboard the MV Minerva craft. The secretary stressed that failing to inform the DMW about the vessel's route through the Gulf of Aden, where the September 27 Houthi attack occurred, was a clear violation.
Yes, I've given the directive to suspend kasi wala na namang report. At again, it's a very disappointing and frustrating situation for us. Both the manning agency and the ship owner did not even bother to render a report. And
Kakdak added that the ship could have avoided the Gulf of Aden by taking the Indian Ocean route, but because of contractual and commercial reasons, the ship proceeded through the high-risk area without notifying the DMW.
Under the rules, yung right to refuse sailing, hindi na sundan according to the 11 survivors. Wala sa kanila man lang na tinanong kung gusto nilang dumaan dun sa Gulf of Aden. So all of this will come to pass, and we will suspend the licensed manning agency and the ship owner accordingly.
According to the DMW report, 12 Filipino crew members were aboard MV Minerva craft during the attack. 10 have already returned home to the Philippines, while one of the 2 injured crew members arrived Friday night after sustaining minor injuries. Sadly, another Filipino sailor died from severe wounds sustained during the attack. Kakdak arrived in Djibouti on October 8, together with the family of the deceased seafarer, his wife and sister, to personally attend the repatriation of his remains. According to the DMW, the sailor's remains are expected to arrive in the Philippines by Friday night. Meanwhile, the Philippine Embassy in Cairo continues to coordinate with Djibouti authorities to expedite the repatriation process and ensure the welfare of all affected Filipino seafarers. Angie De Leon, your Global Citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Get ready to look up because the heavens might just soon glow. A geomagnetic storm could push the northern lights deep into American skies, making it visible as far south as New York, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Idaho. Sara Santos has the story.
The United States National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, Space Weather Prediction Center has issued a G2 geomagnetic storm watch for Thursday, October 16, as two massive solar bursts known as coronal mass ejections are soon expected to reach Earth's atmosphere. These solar bursts release charged particles that can trigger stunning aurora displays when they interact with our planet's magnetic field. NOAA scientists say the activity could cause a moderate G2 level storm, with minor effects continuing into Friday. Aurora watchers are being told to keep their eyes on the sky and stay updated through official NOAA forecasts. NASA calls these eruptions sunbursts, massive bubbles of gas and energy racing through space. When they collide with our planet's magnetic field, they paint the sky with ribbons of green, pink, and purple light, what we know as the Northern Lights. It's still uncertain exactly when or how bright the auroras will appear, but if skies stay clear, parts of US could see one of the most spectacular night light shows in years. Reporting Sara Santos, SMNI News.
In sports, Yoshinobu Yamamoto delivered a masterclass as the Dodgers moved closer to the World Series. While over in Europe, Alyssa Thompson announced her arrival at Chelsea with goal and an assist in their Women's Champions League win. Carla De La Peña reports.
The 27-year-old Japanese right-hander went the distance, striking out 6 and allowing only 1 run on 3 hits and a walk. After giving up a home run on his first pitch, Yamamoto quickly settled down and retired the final 14 batters, becoming the first Dodger to throw a complete postseason game since 2004. Max Muncy and Teoscar Hernandez added firepower for Los Angeles with solo homers, including Muncy's record-setting 14th career playoff blast for the team. The best-of-7 series now heads to Los Angeles, where the Dodgers can move closer to a return to the World Series. Over in the American League, the Seattle Mariners also hold a 2-0 edge over the Toronto Blue Jays heading into Game 3 in Seattle. Meanwhile, the 20-year-old American winger impressed with her speed and control, setting up Johanna Redding-Canarid's opener before calmly finishing Kira Walsh's cross to score her first goal for the club. Manager Sonia Bompastor praised Thompson's display, but said fans have yet to see her full potential. She said Thompson is young, talented, and still adjusting to a new club and teammates, but added she expects to see an even better version of her soon. Former Chelsea star Fran Kirby described Thompson as a real bright spark, while ex-Scotland captain Rachel Corsie said her first goal could open the floodgates. Thompson said she feels she's starting to find her rhythm at Chelsea after adjusting to the new system and playing style. She told UEFA she's happy to be playing more as a winger and hopes to keep improving in the next matches. Chelsea's 4-1 victory was a strong response after a string of narrow results, with captain Millie Bright saying the team got their mojo back. Midfielder Aaron Cuthbert added they were focused on finishing their chances, something they clearly delivered against Paris FC. Reporting for Newsline World, this is with Carlo De La Peña bringing you the latest sports news. The Angels are back. The Victoria's Secret fashion show made a grand return
with celebrities shining on the pink carpet and iconic models lighting up the runway. Here's Stella Maris for more of this showbiz news.
Stars brought their best looks to Brooklyn. Jodie Turner-Smith turned heads in a bold white ruffled bodysuit, while Jordyn Woods wowed in a black and gold animal print blazer dress. Sarah Jessica Parker made a surprise appearance in an elegant all-black Alexander Wang gown with a Dolce & Gabbana coat, while Jessica Stam channeled old-school Hollywood glam in shimmering gold. Rising star Asia Monat Ray impressed in a flowing white gown with a cape, and Emira D. Spain stand in a black corset detailed with pink lace. Designer Janae Naylor also stood out in a chic chocolate mini dress topped with a fur coat. On the runway, Gigi Hadid captivated in a dramatic Barbie pink lingerie set with floral wings. Barbara Palvin amazed fans by walking despite a broken foot, while Ashley Graham made a powerful return in black with massive angel wings. Bella Hadid also made a triumphant comeback after completing treatment for Lyme disease, closing the show in a breathtaking silver look. Held in Brooklyn, the 2025 Victoria's Secret fashion show also featured an all-female lineup of musical acts. Pop star Madison Beer delivered a captivating set, reggaeton queen Karol G called it a dream come true, and Missy Elliott brought her signature energy to the stage. Making history, K-pop group Twice became the first Korean act to perform at Victoria's Secret fashion show, dazzling both on the carpet and under the lights. And that's for today's showbiz news. This is Stella Maris, your citizen correspondent, bringing you the latest show buzz.
And before we end, may be inspired with the words of the sun. Good work is excellent work. And for our Christmas countdown, only 70 days to go before Christmas. And that's all for this edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I am Franco Baranda. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.